Internet of Things. Can't really talk about the Internet of Things until you really talk about the birth of the Internet and how it developed. So in 1969, the American government basically, or up to 1969, the American government invested quite a large sum of money at the time to develop a network called ARPANET, which was basically a network which was intended to pilot the ideas of trying to communicate past some sort of major strike upon the US military infrastructure. That network very, very quickly grew. It was initially in 1969 three computer centers, what we call in computer terms nodes. There was two on the east coast, I think, and there was one on the west coast, all communicating between themselves using this ARPANET. Point worth mentioning is ARPANET doesn't change the internal infrastructure of these networks, but it was actually designed just to change the way those three networks, those individual networks, which in this case were universities, communicate between themselves, which is the concept of the internet. The internet doesn't change what home wiring or what type of Wi-Fi you use in your home network. It just communicates your property to the rest of the world. And anyway, that grew. By 1998, you can see as a sort of internet map here, which originally would have been 3D interactive, where you could trace individual connections to the internet. But after that, it became impossible because the sheer numbers of connections were just too immense. The expansion of the internet, well, we are actually a little bit behind. The timeline at the moment, really, we should be on what's called the next level, at which the internet of everything, where we're using data and things and sensors in our various devices to give us, more links into technology. But at the moment, we're stuck on really what we call the Internet of Things, which is the age of devices. Yes, we're well past the 10 billion individual devices, much more than that. The one thing which really has stopped us progressing is the sheer lack of IP addresses. At the moment, the IP address situation is that we've got probably about less than 1% of IP addresses available. So the IP address, if you've never seen one, is these groups of 4 digits, normally like between 0 and 255. On when you're sending a message, what have you. Normally hidden by the name when you're using the web browsing. But an example might be like 192.168.12.15, and that type of IP address is limited at the moment to a group of 4 numbers. Eventually, the world needs to transform over to what's called IP6, which is just simply a group of 6 numbers, but that will actually give us enough IP addresses for everyone, no matter what we use and how many devices people have in the future. And the one thing which has saved so far the internet, if you wish, is the use of routers in people's individual homes and also in large organizations like business universities, because basically the IP address is given to one organization, such as a university or a college or even a home, and behind that IP address there's a router which then distributes communication to the various devices. So all basically sharing one IP address. And the Internet of Things is very much something which is open and developed individually by individuals, companies, organizations, and very much organizations to government size infrastructure. From Internet of Things developed cities, factories, shops, commercial, retail, to the right down to individuals. So here's an example of just some of the areas which Internet of Things is being used. It's used quite a lot in, for example, medical. It's used quite a lot in sorts of sports, well-being. It's used quite a lot, of course, in communication. So it's very much linked in with other things we're going to be talking about, such as AI and cloud computing. And all these things combined allow Internet of Things to work. And I can give you a very simple example, the classic example of Internet of Things is where you have a smart fridge, and the smart fridge basically would use scales as the shelves to figure out how much you got of each item. So as you take items and put them back, it can work out how much milk, for example, you've got, and then on your way home, it will actually be able to to warn you that you've run out of milk or you've got not enough milk for the next day. Same with things such as heating. So if you've got, if you're at work during the day, it can automatically turn your heating to low. And then as you knows that you're actually leaving from work using, some sort of interaction with probably your smartphone or maybe even your vehicle, then it will then turn your heating back up again. So when you arrive home, it's nice and warm. You get to actually use the heating all day long. Here's a kind of example of how things have sort of expanded outwards, and of course there should be further developments in the future beyond Internet of Everything as things develop, but we aren't there yet. But it all starts with the internet, with your PCs, with tablets. The early days of computing, of course, we had just dial-up computing, and there was no way of being very very mobile. But Internet of things came in really with mobile computing with smartphones, with technologies which have sensors, which allow the computers and technology to develop data, and that data is particularly key to Internet of Things. And we've got obviously things mentioned here, such as factory automation, for lighting. You can have smart lighting in your home where you can talk to, say, Alexa and tell Alexa to turn it on or off, or you can use apps on your phone. So you've got all these things. Ring doorbell is also a good example of this type of technology. And technology is built into vehicles, so it's very much a key part of Internet of Things. And in future, we will expand into Internet of Everything, where we're integrating data more so, and we're bringing it into a new level of integration with technology. As individuals, well, it's all mainly about sensors. There's a lot of work being carried out at the moment about using sensors. The NHS is spending a huge amount of money, for example, on providing technology which will monitor people in their own environment. And examples of, for example, Broad Green Hospital create sort of sensors where if somebody's having a heart condition, they can actually be picked up by ambulance without a person ever knowing or being stressed that they're actually unwell. And within the home, it's the same. We've already mentioned about, ring doorbell type monitors and what have you on the doors. You can have, for example, automated sort of processes within the house where things are turned on, such as heating and lights. If you're, in a warm environment, like it's the air conditioning, likewise, rather than heating, and so on. With things like background music, you can control background music where it's played, and at night time you can have it automatically start to turn off the lights, start to turn off the music, knowing that what your own routine would be.